Welcome to my guide about Oathsworn Pit. Oathsworn Pit is located in the Reach and is a part of the Scions of Athelia DLC. This dungeon's hard modes are quite easy except for the final boss, though the final boss is one of my favorite fights in the game mainly because of Smelter and the ridiculous amount of AoEs and crap going on at 50%. Starting off, we'll go over the secrets as they are more traditional in the sense that there is only one per boss and they give you the typical buffs when completing. Secret Boss 1. Slothrug the Bloodied. This is the Trial of Blood. Slothrug is the first secret within Oathsworn Pit. He is located within a cave behind the giant workhouse. Upon entering this cave, you'll find a massive pit with two ways down, gravity or taking the ramps down. If you're going for the trifecta, you'll have to take the slow way, if not just jump off and revive at the bottom. Reaching the bottom, you'll find a Totem of Blood. Activating the totem will spawn Slothrug starting the first boss fight. Field of Blades. Slothrug spawns a large amount of AoEs causing light damage to start off with but ramp very quickly. This attack starts off dealing only 1 to 2k damage but can quickly ramp to do over 10k or more. This attack applies a stacking debuff called Field of Blades. This makes the next hit do more damage. This effect lasts for 5 seconds and resets every time the Field of Blades debuff is applied. Blood Frenzy. After casting Field of Blades, Slothrug will cast Blood Frenzy. This attack hits extremely quickly in a small cone in front of him. This attack, like Field of Blades, starts off very weak, ramping to do quite a lot of damage. Blood Frenzy is channeled over around 10 seconds and starts off dealing only around 1000 damage and getting upwards to 13 to 15,000 damage. This attack is blockable, however it hits so much that blocking the entire attack will drain your stamina. You have to wait until Blood Frenzy starts to ramp before you block. Completing the Trial of Blood, you will be rewarded with the Bloody Vitality buff. This buff increases healing done by 10% and reduces damage taken by another 10%. Along with this, you will gain access to another buff called Totem of Blood. There will be hidden totems around the dungeon and within boss fights that you can use to activate a very powerful buff. Totem of Blood. Maximum health is increased by 50%. When you receive damage, enemies within 5 meters of you are struck by Bloody Retaliation for 20% of your max health and physical damage once per second. You will also receive a stack of Totemic Coagulation, increasing the damage done by Bloody Retaliation by 10% for 10 seconds for each stack of Totemic Coagulation. This effect's timer is reset every time Bloody Retaliation hits an enemy. Secret 2. Bolg of Wicked Barbs. The Trial of Conquest. Bolg is the second secret within the Oathsworn Pit. This boss is located behind a door locked by braziers. There are 2 hidden braziers before the second boss. One is located right next to the locked doors, the other is located in the room with the giant horror. Igniting these braziers will unlock the door, and in the room you will find a 5x5 grid of fires. These fires are important to the fight and can be changed colors by interacting with them. Bolg has a couple of mechanics you should watch out for. Shot. Bolg's light attack. This attack can actually deal quite a large amount of damage, though he doesn't cast it very often. Arrow Stab. Another light attack. This acts as a melee version of Shot. Barbed Rain. Bolg will shoot multiple arrows into the sky targeting players at random. After about 1 second, a large AoE will form below the targeted players and follow them for a period of time. Teleport. Throughout the fight, Bolg will teleport away and spawn Spectral Archers. Conquest. When reaching low health, if Bolg has claimed more land than the group, he will regen a lot of health and the process of killing him will start over. Spectral Archers. Throughout the fight, Spectral Archers will be spawned. There seems to be 2 ways for these to be spawned. One is randomly when Bolg teleports, and the other is if all fires are claimed by Bolg. Instead of spawning Spirits of Conquest, he will instead spawn a Spectral Archer. Arrow Storm. The Spectral Archers will rapidly shoot fire arrows at a player in the group. This attack cannot be interrupted and the archer has to either be stunned or killed. Spirit of Conquest. Throughout the fight, Bolg will slam his feet, summoning a Spirit of Conquest 1 per player in the group. This ad has very low health and doesn't attack. However, it will target a fire in the arena. If the spirit gets to it, it will light the fire in Bolg's favor along with all the fires around it. These ghosts have to be killed. Seize and Conquest. The whole gimmick of this fight is keeping enough fires lit towards the group's favor that the boss doesn't regen itself. It's very easy, but it's a funny mechanic as it's extremely fast easy if you can nuke the spirits down. Completing the Trial of Conquest rewards you with the Conqueror's Vim buff. This buff increases magic and stamina recovery by 30%. Even if you are running on a class that has very strict requirements for recovery and you're using something like Coral Riptide or Boss Aid, the totem buff from this is actually worth it over everything else in the game. Totem of Conquest. Instantly restore 500 ult. Along with this, you restore 16 ultimate every 2 seconds. This also restores 8 ultimate to any player within a 5 meter radius of you every 2 seconds. This is incredibly broken as you can very easily do burns that require heavy damage as you can get 2 ults instantly in the fight. This plus the fact you'll be generating an insane amount of ultimate. Secret 3. This name. The Trial of War. Grub is the 3rd boss within the Oathsworn pit. This fight can be kind of annoying as the boss likes to just run away from you every 10 seconds, but overall this is the worst buff in the dungeon as the second one is just so dumb. Hammer. Grub's heavy attack. This attack spawns a sunburst meteor on all players after the cast. This attack should be blocked. Upon landing, the meteor will split into 4 smaller objects that travel across the ground. As the fight progresses, you should be careful as this attack will also target all of the friendly flame atronachs in the room. Strike, Crush, and Hack. Grub's light attacks. These attacks deal a small amount of damage and can generally be ignored. Forge. If Grub reaches a forge before the player, he'll spawn a hostile flame atronach. This flame atronach deals very little damage, however the flame atronach should not be ignored. If Grub has more flame atronachs on his side when reaching 0% health, he will absorb them, gaining a lot of health back. If a player ignites a forge before a Grub, a friendly blue atronach will spawn instead. This atronach doesn't deal that much damage, however you need them to prevent Grub from gaining too much health. Completing the Trial of War rewards you with the Warrior's Visage buff. This buff increases weapon spell damage by 10%, along with this you gain access to the Totem of War. Totem of War. Each time you use a light, medium, or heavy attack, damage your target with Warrior's Wrath for X flame damage. Enemies struck by this attack receive a stack of War Weary, increasing damage received from Warrior's Wrath by 10% for 5 seconds for each stack of War Weary on your target. This effect refreshes on each hit of Warrior's Wrath. This effect can be also stacked by multiple players. Oathsworn Pit Trash. There isn't much trash that poses that much of a threat to the group, as there is really only one completely unique add to this dungeon. Before going over this mob, here's a quick overview of all the adds in the dungeon that have slightly more health or deal slightly higher damage. Great Bear, Lurcher, Giant Horver, and Iron Atronach. There's also a big Great Bear. I don't know why it's so much bigger than the other ones, but it's kind of funny. The unique add in Oathsworn Pit is called a Recollection Firewild. They only really have one mechanic that does anything, however they do have the ability to heal enemies and just kind of be a nuisance overall. But the one mechanic you have to watch out for is Summon Cindermoth. The Firewild will summon 2 Cinder Moths. These moths will fixate on a target, charging them and exploding after a short time. These explosions deal a very large amount of damage and can one-shot in certain circumstances. If the group damage is high enough, you can actually kill these moths before they can explode. If they are killed, they will not explode. Rethelros and Malthil. I actually don't know how to pronounce these names because it's just a bunch of letters and I'm just not really with it right now, so this is what you get. The main gimmick of this fight is if they get too close to each other, they enrage, and once one becomes low, the other one will heal them. This is a quick side tangent, but the problem with this gimmick is the archer likes to just run away from the group, so he never poses a threat to enraging the dog, and the dog doesn't really do much when it's not enraged, and when it starts to fixate with one of its mechanics, if you just run it away from the archer doesn't threaten you at all. It gets even worse, as since they heal each other when one gets low, they actually use their health pool to heal, so if you just focus the dog, the archer will slowly kill himself over the course of the fight while you just nuke the dog over and over and over again. On hard mode, the archer can put a couple moments of pressure on people as they have to run from the dog and kite AoEs in a certain way. However, most of the time, nothing lines up with this fixate mechanic and people can just run away freely from the dog without having any pressure put on them by the archer. Quick Shot. Rest Light Attack. This attack deals extremely low damage. Cinder Shot. Breath will summon a line connecting all players in the arena. He will shoot a line of fire down, and this attack deals a moderate amount of damage and can be blocked. On hard mode, this attack also leaves an AoE under your feet where it contacts you. This is called Bonfire. This AoE lingers for a little bit and deals a small amount of damage instantly and more after a little bit. Directed Volley. Breath will shoot a volley into the air, summoning AoEs under each player's feet. This attack should be kited away. Bear Trap. Breath will summon a lot of trap beasts. These root the player in place. They are very spread out and should just be avoided. Vanishing Powder. Breath will teleport to a random spot in the arena. This seems to be bugged, or at least in all the runs I've done, he's only ever teleported around 2 feet away from him, or sometimes just doesn't move at all. Ensnaring Bolt. Breath will shoot an extremely slow moving fire arrow that makes a small AoE where it makes contact. This attack deals an amount of damage. It's very easy to dodge if you just walk in a line out of it. Totem. Wrath will summon a totem to protect the dog and himself. This totem has very low health and should just be killed when it spawns. Maul. Bite. Maul's lie attack. This attack deals a moderate amount of damage. Nip. Another lie attack. This attack applies a low damage bleed when hit. Gnash. I don't have any idea what this does. With this image you can see it does far less damage than anything else in the arena and it doesn't really seem to do anything. Ravage. Maul's heavy attack. This attack deals a high amount of damage and should be blocked or dodged. Fixate. Maul will enrage and fixate on a random target. This effect substantially increases Maul's damage, however it lowers her movement speed. DPS that get hit by Maul in this state are almost guaranteed to die. There's an entire rant in this script. I might just post it in the description if people want to read my opinions on this boss fight, however it's just not worth it putting it into a guide. There's just so many problems with this fight, I don't really understand it. From a hard mode perspective, from a vet perspective it's fine, but from a hard mode there doesn't seem to really do anything. Here's the gear setups we used for the boss fight. Anthelmir and Construct. If you read the rant in the description, you kind of know my opinion on this, but it's cool seeing multiple double fights in the dungeon. However, this one is deceiving as it's not as hard as you would think, though there's a lot going on. 70%. Before 70%, Anthelmir and the Construct both fight you at the same time. Anthelmir. Devastating Flare. Anthel's lie attack. This attack deals a moderate amount of damage and can be blocked. Scorching Hammer. Another Anthelmir lie attack. This attack deals a moderate amount of damage and can be blocked. Heat Blast. Anthel will teleport across the arena putting a shield up and casting fireballs at random targets. The shield should be killed quickly as the fireballs ramp in damage. Cinder Moth Swarm. Anthel will summon one Cinder Moth per player. These moths act the exact same way as the Firewild Moth. Construct. Bramble Whip. Construct's lie attack. This attack deals actually quite a large amount of damage for just being a lie attack. Root Smash. Construct's heavy attack. This attack deals a large amount of damage and should be blocked or dodged. Retrieve and Hurl Axe. The Construct will grab an axe from the outside of the arena, then this deals a small amount of damage as it travels to it. The Construct will target a player without taunt and hurl the axe at them. This attack deals a large amount of damage and should be dodge rolled. Monstrous Blow. This is the Construct's heavy attack with the axe. This attack deals a large amount of damage and should be blocked or dodge rolled. If the main boss or the Construct hits around 70% health, the boss will teleport to the middle of the room and call the Construct to her. This will kill the main boss but keep the Construct alive. The Construct will gain a couple new mechanics. Angry Inferno. The Construct will constantly spew fire out of the Malakath statue that fell on it. This attack deals low damage and places an angry balefire at your feet every time it ticks. This attack follows it around, so if it throws the axe at a DPS, it will turn towards a DPS spewing fire and throwing the axe at them. This can potentially one-shot DPS. Angry Balefire. Every time Angry Inferno ticks, Angry Balefire is placed at your feet, and this is a lingering AoE, and this lasts for a long time and deals a moderate amount of damage. Throughout the fight, the Cinder Moth Swarms will continue to spawn. Fire Barrels. If any fire damage from the bosses makes contact with one of the red barrels, they will put a fire AoE on the ground for the rest of the fight. Here are some tips for the Construct. Don't worry about too much in this fight, as most of the attacks he does just are hectic but don't deal all that much damage. What you really need to watch out for are the Cinder Moths. Here's the gear setups we used for the boss fight. Aradros the Awakened. This is the reason I love this dungeon. Slice. Aradros' lie attack. This attack deals a moderate amount of damage and can be lethal when mixed with other mechanics throughout the fight. This attack also applies serrated wounds. This dot lasts for around 5 seconds and deals low damage. Emblazoned Strike. Aradros' heavy attack. This attack has around a 2.5 second windup and deals a high amount of damage. This attack should be blocked or dodged. Fracture. Aradros will slam the ground after a 2-second windup. This attack deals high damage and should be avoided. This attack also causes all tiles within the AoE to become molten. These tiles will never change back when on hard mode. Wildfire. Aradros will light all players without taunt on fire. If less than 4 players, Aradros will light the player with taunt on fire as well. Every second, the players will cause a tile underneath them to become molten. This attack deals low damage. Twin Fires. Aradros will attack in a small cone in front of himself. This attack deals moderate damage and can be blocked or dodged. Summon Pixies. Throughout the fight, Aradros will summon 2 pixies. These adds deal very low damage and should just be pulled in and died to cleave. Call meteors. Aradros will summon 3 meteors around the arena. These meteors emanate a pulse from them around 6 tiles long. After 10 seconds they erupt and they are one shot to anyone caught by them. On hard mode, these meteors no longer have a size limit and will reach to all ends of the arena. Molten Tile. Multiple mechanics will cause molten tiles. Once a tile has become molten, it will deal a small amount of damage extremely quickly to anyone caught standing on it. These tiles ramp in damage the longer you stand on them, and on hard mode they will never return back to their normal state. This effectively sets a time limit on how long you can take on this boss fight. Brimstone. Every 10% health, Aradros is supposed to cast Brimstone. This mechanic can easily be skipped as he won't cast it if it's already running, and you can push him to 50% extremely quickly. After casting Brimstone, the middle of the arena will have a lava geyser erupting from it, causing random tiles to become molten. These tiles randomly switch, but overall the effect lasts for 30 seconds. These tiles will return back to their normal state once Brimstone has ended. 50%. At 50%, Aradros will teleport to the middle of the arena and begin to cover the entire arena in molten tiles. 3 doors will open around the arena. I suggest you go to the one opposite of the entrance in the arena. Why are these names like this? But this guy. Quick Strike. Bane's Light Attack. This attack deals a moderate amount of damage and can be blocked. Vicious Strikes. Bane's Heavy Attack. This acts like the Warrior's Heavy Attack and should never be dodged. Each hit deals high damage, and if dodge rolled too early, the last hit can catch you after the dodge is finished. Shield Throw. Bane will throw his shield randomly at a player without taunt. This attack deals a moderate amount of damage. Pyric Remains. Bane will summon a ground AoE of Molten Earth. This attack deals a large amount of damage and should be avoided. Molten Pillar. Bane summons a fireball for each player. This orb tethers to a player, causing a dot and slowing the player for 20 seconds. Once the 20 seconds are up, the orb explodes, causing a large amount of damage in a massive area. If the player dies or tries to outrange the orb, it will instantly explode. Nilberwin. Pummel. Nilberwin's Light Attack. This attack deals low damage. Flash Surge. Nilberwin will jump towards the player. Nilberwin uses this as a gap closer for Crossfire. Crossfire. Nilberwin will summon 5 massive AoEs with the core of them missing. This attack deals a massive amount of damage and should be avoided and dodged. Stalactite. Nilberwin will cause molten stalactites to fall from the ceiling. This attack deals a moderate amount of damage and should be kited. Split Earth. Nilberwin will summon a Stone Atronach. These Stone Atronachs don't do much and can basically be ignored. I'm just gonna call this dude Lore. Quick Strike. Lore's Light Attack. This attack deals low damage. Fire Slice. Lore will channel a fast-hitting fireball. This attack should be interrupted. Fire Wave. Lore will cast 3 growing AoEs. The first one is quite small, the second one is a little bit bigger, and the third one is actually quite large. These all target in front of him and deal a moderate amount of damage if you're caught out by them. Incineration. Lore will start to cast an AoE centered on himself. Once the AoE is formed, this attack deals a moderate amount of damage every half second. This attack acts the exact same as the AoE from the Keel Cutters and Dreadsail Reef. 50% hard mode. On hard mode, you'll have to fight all 3 mini-bosses at the same time. These bosses alone deal very little damage and are easy to manage. With all 3 of them at the same time, they can quickly kill the entire group, as most of their mechanics will overlap with each other. After 50%. After 50%, you return to the middle where you fight the main boss and nothing changes. He continues to cast the same mechanics the same way he did before. Here's the gear setups we use for the boss fight. Normally at the end of these videos I have a somewhat rough idea of what I want to talk about, but for this one I don't really. So if this gets a little bit rambly, I'm sorry about that. But the reason there's not many tip sections or anything like that for these fights is the first fight is just completely easy and doesn't really have any tips that make it any easier. I guess just keep the dog away from the archer. But the second boss has the one, because I know there's going to be some people who want to panic with that fight, and it doesn't do as much damage as you think it would. The last fight, it's just learning ways for your group to survive the 50% phase, as everything around that is extremely easy, but that 50% phase is rough, and the way my group does it probably won't work for a lot of people, so I just didn't include it here. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I don't really know what to do with this end part, because my opinion's just in the description, and overall I just don't really have much to say about this one. I just wanted to get this out, and explain the mechanics, hopefully, to people who needed it. But anyway, with that, I hope you enjoyed. The tries of this should be up relatively quickly. I just have to get the group together and run them really quick. We already have some strats from PTS available to us, but just gotta put them together. It shouldn't be too long. Oh, and one last thing. I'm working on a kind of funny us killing ourselves in Godslayer video and just some of the stupid moments we had of almost finishing it and wiping and stuff, but that should be coming out soon too.